Brother Jalal, Dr. Sale, he will be with us shortly. Please, right away, when you see him, say Assalamu alaikum and start your comments and the question, okay?
Will do.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
So, Brother Basim, you said there is no subjects to talk about?
Yeah, it's no subject, Brother Muhammad, you know. Last week we struggled to find, 2 weeks before, we struggled to find subject to talk about, you know.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of subjects.
I know, but you need somebody to ask the question, you know.
Oh, okay, I understand you.
Okay, anyway, Brother Jalal has a question. I think we can start from there and let us see how the class will go.
Inshallah.
Jazakallah khair, Brother Muhammad.
السلام عليكم وعيدكم مبارك جميعا.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
Allah barak for you, brother.
Wa alaikum assalam jami'an. Dr. Suhail is also in the audience.
Yes. عليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
Salam, brother. Brother Bassam gave me the floor to raise a question as he was speculating whether there was anything to bring up. And I told him that I had the blessing of revisiting the Holy Quran during the month of Ramadan to the level that I could handle. And during that process, a few things that came to me to bring up to you. I have known you for about 5 years now, nearly 5 years. And I've been very much impressed with who you are, who you appear to be. And it came to me, how many times have you read the Quran? 100 times, 200 times? And when? When you were 20, when you were 30, when you were 50? How did your takes of whatever you learned as a result, how did that mature as maturation and getting to mature thinking process? Because life is obviously dynamic, and in time we learn things that in reflection, I certainly do, how much I did not know, some things that I now know. Then it came to me why we or I as a Muslim don't know Islam as best as I must. Why have we been entangled with the difficulty of knowing how God has communicated with us through this holy book? And then obviously there was a humanity before Islam, and the fundamental religions that history has taught me to know. And the ones that preceded Islam were Christianity and then Judaism. And of course, in time, they have lived longer, and they too have probably undergone the questions of, the right versus the wrong, or wrong take, right take, wrong interpretation, right interpretation, following And are we as Muslims having, in this 21st century, great difficulties of coming to terms with how we were meant to be educated and guided? What about the followers of the other two religions? I know they have got divisions and fractions between them, but then am I unable to hear those divisions and see their manifestations in the day-to-day affairs of the community, or it doesn't exist? So these were a few things that I thought I would bring up, and I had the privilege of Bassam gave me the opportunity, and I threw them out. You, sir. If you can enlighten me about yourself, and I take it that you are probably 60, and when did you get attracted, and how did your journey in getting attracted to Quran and the knowledge that you have gained from it? It fascinates me if I know more, and I don't know if I'm taking other people's time in this desire.
I mean, it's not about me. I mean, it's
No, you cannot tell me that everybody's like you. I'm not like you.
I don't know. I mean, alhamdulillah, bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu salam ala Rasulullah. Yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed me with to be born in a religious family. And from childhood, my father had a huge library, Islamic library. So start reading these things early on. He also is a hafid and encouraged me to start memorizing Quran early on. But other than that, it's not about an individual. It's about what I believe that every Muslim should be on a lifelong journey of learning and implementing what he or she learns. That's what I try to do. I mean, I try always to remind myself that whatever knowledge you have, it's very little. And you need to remain thirsty for knowledge until till the end. And you shouldn't let a day passes by without learning something new and implementing something new. For the Quran, I think the journey probably the main. I'm still learning. I every now and every time I read the Quran or I recite, I come across verses as if I read them for the first time. And developing that thirst for knowledge that you learn from everybody, you learn from all sources. Don't underestimate anybody. I always use the example that you can meet a person who is illiterate, and you can learn lessons from that person that you cannot find it in any book because it comes from life experience. So being humble all the time and knowing that whatever you know is very little, and everybody, you can get something from anybody and from any source. And that's the hadith. I mean, wisdom is the lost property of the believer. Hikmah dalatul mu'min. You should be always on the look for wisdom, for things that can help you becoming a better person in this life and can help you becoming better prepared for the next life. When it comes to the Quran, I think the main development that I believe is when I reached the conclusion that studying the Quran is a must on every believer and it's doable. So every believer must and can study the Quran, and that this reading and memorizing and learning tajweed and listening to the Quran, they are all good things, but that's not what Quran is meant to be. I think that's probably one of the turning point or breakthrough when I reached that conclusion that studying the Quran, Quran was not meant to be just read or recited or memorized or listened to, but it is meant to be studied. And every Muslim can do it, and every Muslim should embark on the life journey of studying the Quran. The other thing that probably can be also, it's the fact that it wasn't hard, it wasn't easy, it wasn't quick to reach the conclusion that the Islam that we inherited has nothing to do with the original Islam. This is not takfir, this is not no, Muslims are very good people. They mean well, they have the best of the intention. They are very emotionally attached to the religion, but to the religion they inherited, to the version they inherited. And that religion, I keep comparing it to the original. There is no comparison. I mean, you scratch the surface, there is no comparison whatsoever. there is Islam that is very inspiring, very empowering, that transforms individuals, turn them into leaders of civic leaders and leaders of leading change in their communities and build the movement. And it has a model for all of that. And I don't see it happening anywhere. I mean, it didn't happen in the Muslim world, of course, but even when we came to this country and we have all the freedom to do it, and we have a highly educated community, we failed miserably to build a community that looks like the prophetic community. So we ended up with mosques and Islamic centers. People gather around them. These mosques and Islamic center and Muslim organizations, they offer some basic services, they offer facilities, activities, but we are nowhere close to a prophetic community with true leadership and true mission. I mean, just look around. Every community is a community of worshiper, community of, it's a congregation, people, they congregate, they gather for Jumu'ah, gather in Ramadan, they gather for daily prayers, there are some halaqah here and there are some services, but that's not a prophetic community. I mean, if you look at what impact we have, not on the country at large, but even in the cities and the neighborhood where we are settled, almost none. I mean, that's not the profile of Ummah Wasat or Khaira Ummah. No. So accepting that and living with it, that there is a religion that was lost over the centuries and needs to be rediscovered. Patchwork will not do it. We have a religion that was frozen in time and was mutilated. Mutilated, why? Because when you have absolute power and dictatorship, it will not coexist with the true Islam. So Islam has to be twisted in order to coexist with that type of government and regimes. So it was stripped from its sense of mission, the maqasid, the ultimate purpose were marginalized. Fiqh al-ibadat was blown out of proportion, the fiqh of how you pray, how you make ghusl, how you make wudu, how you make this, how you fix the prayer, and then books was written about this. And accepting that conclusion and saying it wasn't easy, but gotta keep hammering it, and hopefully one day Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it possible for us to spread this word at a much larger scale, because I believe that we all Muslims need to reach that conclusion and need to forget about all the patchwork and all the failed attempt of reform and change that was done repeatedly, and we are still doing them, and we still expect different results. After the three phenomena that I mentioned, after the liberation from independence, which did not result in a change, after the great expansion of Islamic movement and became almost dominant and even reached power in several countries, after that, and nothing changed, so people came to the Islam and to masajid, mosques, and after the Arab Spring, which failed miserably, I think it's about time for people to stop trying these things and stop counting on something is going to happen out of this. Unfortunately, we love wishful thinking. We can convince ourselves with things that we know they're not going to happen. But we just love daydreaming. We love to pursue mirage and things that we know that will never materialize. The damage that happened to the Muslim mind and Muslim personality will not be fixed by changing regime, will not be fixed by any single task or single thing to be done. It's a holistic approach. It's a whole revolution of intellectual and religious and people really have to start thinking completely differently. And unfortunately, we can see it. We can see this thinking where it is leading us. Just to give you an example, simple example, just came to my mind in recent days. Recently, we study the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. When we want to compromise, we say Sulh al-Hudaybiyah, the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. This is when people want to justify compromise of their jama'ah or their party or whatever. Say, oh, look at the Prophet ﷺ did the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. But when we don't want to compromise, you don't hear that. And again, they can tell you that the Treaty of Hudaybiyah was very humiliating for Muslims, and it was a lot of compromise to the point that Umar al-Khattab was angry, but the Prophet ﷺ, and it's true, Prophet ﷺ had a bigger vision, and he, it turns out that was the right thing to do, of course. But then, what came to mind is the Battle of Mu'tah. I mean, people study this in the seerah of Rasul ﷺ. That Rasul ﷺ, the Battle of Mu'tah in brief, was a battle against the Roman Empire, which was the biggest empire of the time. And the reason for it was because these Romans, and unfortunately the Ghassasin or the Arabs that were allies with them, they were intercepting the trade of Medina with Sham, with Bilad al-Sham, and stealing the caravans, and then on top of this, they killed the emissary of Rasul ﷺ. Rasul ﷺ sent an emissary to their king, and at that time the Rasul لا تقتل. Yani emissaries are not, even if between two enemies, countries that are enemy, if one send you a messenger or a emissary, you don't kill them. Actually, you treat them well. But he was killed. And that at that time was basically the norm, that this is an act of war. So basically they declared it, they started. So it was not even an offensive. It was an act of war, and you cannot accept it, because if you accept it, then you're gonna encourage others to attack you because they will see weakness. So the Prophet ﷺ gathered an army of 3,000 people and sent them to Mu'tah, which is in Karak in Jordan nowadays. That's where they camped. And then assigned 3 leaders, one after the other. If you were killed, then the second, Zayd ibn Haritha, Abdullah, Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, and then Abdullah ibn Rawah. And then tell them if the 3 are killed, then just agree on someone, select someone from. So that's what happened. I read it, I revisited, I saw Muslims discussing before, when they arrived there, they discovered that the Roman army is 200,000. 100,000 Roman, 100,000 Arabs, their allies, 200,000. That's a surprise. That was not their calculation or plan. And I read about the discussion. It was so simple. There is someone said, let's withdraw. And nobody said that you are a kafir or you're Zionist or you are this or you're an opinion. I mean, this is not what we planned for, so let's withdraw. Somebody else said, let's send a message to the Prophet ﷺ and ask him to tell us what to do, or to send us more people, because this is not something that we can do, we can handle. And the third one, which was Abdullah ibn Rawah, the third assigned leader, he made a very emotional khutbah and said that we came for Shahada, and we don't fight with our religion, we don't fight with our numbers, we fight with the religion, and Allah is with us, etc. Which was also great opinion. So you have 3 very different opinions, and discussion was very decent, and there was nobody was attacked like today if you dare to differ with the mainstream or with the wave. So that discussion, they ended up fighting. They took the message of Abdullah ibn Rawaha, and they ended up fighting. Now the fight went, and it was clearly that Muslims are going to be exterminated. It took only one day. One day, the 3 leaders were killed, and it was clearly going that this battle is going to end in extermination of Muslims. And not only that, they were thinking about, they were start worried about that even, and that's if they finish that huge army, that's probably all what Muslim has. I mean, whatever Rasul will send them, maybe a few hundreds more. That's what Muslims had. That's the largest army they gathered. So if they will be finished, and then they probably going to go and finish the Medina. So Khalid ibn Walid, genius, he knew that this is not going anywhere. So his focus at night was on withdrawing and cutting losses. This is not what we planned for. This is not the battle that we can win. Let's save the Muslim army. And then he had the brilliant idea so that to withdraw, and then they teach that withdrawal, by the way. They teach that withdrawal in military schools, that it was a brilliant way to withdraw and not be, as a defeated. No, he changed the right wing and the left, and then he attacked them at night, and then he asked Muslims to use their horses to give the impression that there is a reinforcement. They came from Medina. Brilliant way, and then withdraw. Now, not only that, so that was, I mean, it took one day and 3 leaders were killed. That say this is going nowhere, let's withdraw. Not only that, when they went to Medina, they were received in a very bad way. Why? Because the Arabs at that time, they think that to be courageous and brave, you don't withdraw. I mean, it's okay even if you're exterminated, finish them. You don't withdraw. So they call them Farrarin or Farrar, etc., and they start feeling very bad and almost regretted what they have done until they met Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, no, I mean, you did the right thing. You can see how things were so simple, and how different opinions can be considered, and how when you have a mission and you have a project, you're no longer the Arabs before Islam, when you fight regardless of what happens. And then we count the shuhada and say, the more shuhada, the better we are, or closer to the victor. No. So I compared it to the discussion that is happening now, or has been happening, about Gaza and about Lebanon, etc. There is no comparison. There is no comparison. Now it's discussion is not there. It's not allowed. There's only one opinion. Considering other option, no. People, if you say consider other options to save some lives, and should have been done like from the first month, when it turns out that the plan, what you planned for, was not materializing. Wahdat Sahad did not happen. That Iran is going to fight, did not happen. Hezbollah is going to fight, did not happen. It was minor contribution, and Houthi, etc. Israel, so many, it's not going to bombard Gaza because of the hostages. It did. It cannot stay in a prolonged war. No, it did. They cannot, because their economy is based on those soldiers, and they cannot, Israel never get involved in long wars. So let's be patient, and they cannot continue. They did. So many, you found out that what you planned for, what you found out was very different from what you planned for. Consider other options. Like Khalid ibn Walid did. No, you can't. People don't even dare to say it. I don't know how many lives would have been saved and how much for Gaza was being saved if we just kept all the options open. Just based on the fact that there was a plan, but the reality was very different. It's exactly the Muslims in Mu'tah. There was a plan, and then they found that this is 200,000. There is no way we can do this. So there was an opinion. So I believe that what Hamas started with was that opinion of Abdullah ibn Rawah. Forget about right or wrong. There was an opinion. They started with it. It turns out that it's not going anywhere. So Khalid ibn Walid took the other opinion. The other opinion that said from the beginning that let's not even start this battle.
So, Dr. Suhail,
Yes.
I wrote a question. So when you started reading about like Islam, I mean, I have maybe similar
Journey.
experience or journey.
Mhm.
My father was I mean, he studied in Al-Azhar, and we have a huge library at home. And that was maybe my library. I was reading and discussing with my father and his friends when they come to home, and they call it Majalis al-Ilm all over. But did you learn how to be critical thinker from that point, or what you learned at that time was the traditional understanding of Islam? And okay, before, because time may be running, when did you have the transformation, or how?
I don't know. I mean, no, my father was more of contemporary Islamic movement,
Okay.
not traditional. So the books on the library was Sayyid Qutb, Mawdudi, etc. These are mostly. It's you cannot point to one particular time or one particular point. It's a journey. It's a process. I was very active at the university. That's a whole experience of political involvement and engagement, etc. Even high school, actually, high school and then university. And then probably the biggest turning point happened here. I mean, in the early 90s. That's the beginning of soul searching. It's who I am, what is our mission, what's my purpose in life, etc. And then it's continuing. It's not something that stops. But after all that involvement with the Islamic movement for many, many years, and I continued here because it was the only thing that is available. But I would say that starting from mid-90s, maybe 93, 94, 95, that's one big turning point. And then 2008 or 7, when I wrote the book, 2008 till 10, that's the final, the last one. I mean, the rest is progress, but that's a turning point when I figured out that even this contemporary Islamic movement and Muslim organization are going nowhere.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
First, I didn't know you had a book. I would love to see it and read it. What's the title of it, ya Sheikh?
Wallahi, it's a Muslim American Renaissance project. I can, if somebody can.
You can get it online. I bought it a few years back, and it's available. I think Amazon or online somewhere.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll look it up. Muslim Islamic Renaissance?
Muslim American Renaissance project.
Muslim American Renaissance. Okay, so a lot of this thought process is in it. Okay, Sheikh, if you don't mind.
Of course, if I'm gonna, I mean, I always think about writing another edition, and a lot of things.
Especially after the Arab Spring, we might need to, the third event.
Yeah.
That might require. Okay, so if just hearing you, Sheikh, from Algeria, I feel also you could have been influenced by your uncle, which I know pretty well. I used to be one of his followers. He was a critical thinker within the Ikhwan movement. And he kind of was shunned aside, I remember, for his thought process. He, not follow mainstream decisions from Egypt, for example. But then again, I was really happy to see that in Tunisia, he was leading the movement for change in the Arab Spring. Okay. And he even brought ideas that were difficult for most of the Muslim movements, to work with others. And like Egypt, work with the communists, work with others, try to come up with a constitution. And I thought that will work. But eventually, it didn't. So even with the critical thinking, trying something different, trying to write the new process to democratize, to involve others, that did not work either. You know what happened in Tunisia more than I do. So that might be something you could write in your book, you can think about, you can bring. And plus, I have a question that I sent before you finish. There's a question we can discuss next week or something. Anyway, so the first, if you have any comment on what I just
I
said.
mean, there is no question that when I say Islamic movement, because my uncle is the founder and
Yeah.
the one,
Allah يفك الصبر يا شيخ. الله يفك
I
الصبر.
mean,
مش
who
فيه.
established the intellectual foundation for the movement, and himself and Turabi, and before them, of
Yes.
course, Malik bin Nabi.
Mhm.
These are they took a different route than the traditional Islamic movement.
Yes.
So that's why they were not really in sync with the Ikhwan in general, even though they considered part of the Ikhwan, but they are always have their own thinking and their own approaches. So the influence is automatic. I mean, it's anybody who grew up in Tunisia and in the Islamic movement will be influenced by his writings because, again, he was the father of the movement or the founder. Now, for the Arab Spring, I had a lot of discussion with him. I mean, when he visits here or when even, and we differed a lot in the approaches. And I don't believe they had the proper reading of the revolution that happened in Tunisia, the Arab Spring. And their approach was very haphazard, day to day. There was no strategic, and there was critical moments they did not take advantage of them. And they wrote that on time and they shared it with him. There was a lot of miscalculation, like we say, miscalculation early today. There was a lot of miscalculation. They counted that Libya will have a positive impact on Tunisia, and they said in time. That's not the case. Libya is going to get into a mess. That was my projection. And if you don't get terrorism from Libya, then you should be lucky. He said, no, you're pessimistic. Libya will rise quickly and will have a positive impact on Tunisia. I don't know based on what. They have that. And then their assessment of the fact that you are in a country that is not independent, and don't behave and think as if you are in a fully independent and sovereign country. That's not the case. And you need to count and bet on or count on your people rather than on the elite or on the outside forces. And he had a different opinion, but they thought that the elite are more important than the masses because they control a lot of institutions and media and army, etc. So they went into that pleasing, trying to be everything to everybody, and that was bad. Said that from the beginning. Their critical moment came when they won the election in a landslide, and they did not take advantage of it. They won the election after less than a year from the revolution, 10 months. And then they got the parliament, they got the government, they got the presidents, they got everything. And rather than being decisive and providing leadership and proposing a vision for the people and try to rally them and inspire them, they remain busy with the political struggle with the communists and this and that, and let's try to work with this one and not them. I think they fell in the trap. They fell in the trap, and then they figured out later on that it's very similar to the Obama experience. Obama came on a movement, came to power, but then he wanted to be everything to everybody. So he ended up watering down his agenda, but he did not win anybody from the other side. Just case in point, his healthcare plan was very different. It was universal healthcare, like Canada and France, etc. And then he kept diluting it just to try to win the Republicans. And then when it went to vote, they didn't get any single vote from the Republican. So he lost his base, marginalized his base. He offended his base because basically he mobilized college students and people who donated $1 and $2 and $5 for the first time. And people who voted for the first time, thinking that this is a man who's leading a change movement. And then you become a typical president, and you dilute your agenda. So you don't win anybody from the other side, you lose your base. That's exactly what happened to the Nahda party in Tunisia. They lost their base, and they did not win anybody from the other side. So that's why in the first election they had more than 1.5 million votes. In the second election they had only 900,000, less than 1 million. In the third election they had 500,000. So it was clearly going in the wrong direction.
MashaAllah. So you
I
really
can't
need to
talk, Dr.
capture,
Sheikh.
you need to capture this, Sheikh, in the book and share it. Instead of Renaissance in America, maybe just Islamic Renaissance.
Well, at that time, the Muslim world there was no action, was frozen. So all my focus was here.
Yeah. So maybe
I wrote a small book on the Arab Spring. I can share it with you, inshallah. I can share it with the group, inshallah.
yeah, please. That would be good. Just to let
And
us
this
know.
was written. I just read it recently and was surprised because when I was writing those projections, I always say, inshallah, they don't materialize, but unfortunately they did. So several articles, put them together. I can send you the link to the articles, and I can send you the PDF of the booklet on the Arab Spring.
Yeah.
Inshallah.
Please do share it to the group.
Inshallah.
Jazakallah khairan.
Yeah, please
Well, yeah.
share it with the group.
I
But
think
it's in
Dr.
the
Suhail,
articles and the book is in Arabic. Yes.
Dr. Suhail, I think the American culture influence you. You work in American university, it's changed your view. You are using words, terms, we never heard it in the Arab world.
There is
Actually,
no
we don't understand what it's mean.
There is. Mhm.
The American terms you are using, exactly, people in the Middle East, they don't know what it means. They probably think it's shirk or kufr or something, you know.
And first of all, there is no question, and I spend more time here than in Tunisia. So there is no question that I believe that the American mindset and American culture has a lot of positive elements in it. And if you are selective and you know how to take advantage of it, they're very compatible with the original Islam. Simplicity of people, the humbleness, the determination, the fighting spirit, the winning mindset, etc. All of these are pure Islamic, self-development, etc. So there is no question that I tried, not necessarily succeeded, to merge the Islamic principles with the American culture as much as possible. And I believe that, yes, there are some good elements in our culture, but a lot of it really has nothing to do with Islam. Our culture was messed up, like our mindset. And now when it comes to kufr, I told you, if Umar ibn Khattab was living amongst us, the ijtihadat he made would be called kufr. If Khalid al-Walid was living with us and did what he did in Mu'tah, he would be called sellout and Zionist and whatever. So that's common because the Salafi mindset was dominant among Muslims that nobody dares to even disagree. No dissent. There are a lot of people who realized early on that this going nowhere like in Gaza. But nobody can say, because if you say it, you're going to be attacked left and right, and you'll be, basically your life will become miserable by people. So people will keep quiet. And until now, there are people who I used to respect. They're called historian and thinkers, etc. Called, this is victory. The children in Gaza are defending our honor. Go from Kuwait and defend honor yourself. You're living in a luxurious life in a European country or in a Gulf country, and then you're asking Palestinians go and die for us?
Let us change the subject, Dr. Suhail. You talk about President Obama and his plan for the health plan. And we are the current president. He tried to change the norm in America. America, every year, they borrow $1 trillion or more every year. And the current president, he tried to change this norm. And I think he's right. But the people is against him because the people has to suffer when he stop borrowing. Just imagine every month, my brother give me $5,000 to spend. I have very good life, and my kids have very good life. And my brother, he changed his mind, and he told me, I will give you every month $2,000. My kids will suffer, right? And I will suffer, But there is no other choice just to adjust my spending from 5,000 to 2,000. And this is the current president is trying to do. And everybody against him.
And I'm not expert in economics, but what I can say about the current president is, number one, he's very clear about his agenda, and he says it, which has become very rare now. He says it clearly in the campaign, and he implements what he says. So that's became very rare. And probably is going to force the Democrat to do the same, because this politics of by the polls is leading us nowhere. There is no choice anymore. If everybody is leading by the polls and tell people what they want to hear, we're going nowhere. So that's what on the side. Now, everybody who tried to implement these, what they call them, siyasat taqashuf, when people are used to spend, and then money that the government does not have, we know that wherever they try to end the subsidy in Egypt in 1977, in Tunisia in 1984, every time the government will say, we are living beyond our means, and we need to basically sell you product with their price, because the subsidy money is money that we're borrowing it. We know people will not accept that, because it's like taking the painkiller from somebody or the drugs they're used to. So I'm not sure about I'm not an expert to say that this is good policy or bad policy and it's going to lead where it's going to lead. But definitely it was an earthquake in America and in the whole world because of the position of America. And I heard some experts saying that it's a big gamble. It can turn out to be great for America, bringing back manufacturing here and fixing the budget and fixing things, etc. But also it can turn to a disaster. And some people say it might be difficult in the beginning, but it's going to pay off later. I don't know. I don't know these tariff policies, etc. But if you tell me about fairness, if he's talking about fairness, I think that's fair. I mean, you can't be charging American product certain tariff and America does not charge you the same tariff. It's common sense. But again, it is an earthquake because America is the biggest market for everybody, and everybody wants to sell here because they know the buying power of Americans, and everybody's afraid that this will limit their ability to export to America. So I need to learn more about it, but there is no question that we're talking about a big, huge turning point in political and the economic, in politics and economy in the world. But you asked me in third world countries, I'm totally for it. I'm totally for removing subsidy, ending subsidy, and helping those who are in poor in kind, either with money or in kind. But it is very unfair to sell gas and bread with the same price to very rich people and very poor people. Very unfair. So you don't do subsidy, you end subsidy, and then you help those who are, that will save you a lot of money, and you give either coupons or whatever for those who need help. That's the government has that role of redistributing wealth. But nowadays, in all Muslim countries, somebody has 4 or 5 cars in front of their house, and somebody has a very old car. They pay the same price for gas. That's very unfair. So I believe that this kind of policy of selling products at their price and telling people exactly what it is, these are our means, and manage the budget of the country the same way you manage your own budget at home, I'm totally for it. I don't know about the tariff things, but I'm totally for balancing budgets and ending subsidy for everybody and keep it only for those who are in need.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Arnoushi.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Eid Mubarak to all of you. I have been busy the last several weeks. I haven't joined. There is a question regarding, you said you brought the example of Khalid ibn al-Walid retreating or making the decision to retreat. Do you think Hezbollah made the same decision recently with their ceasefire? I remember right before the ceasefire, almost 12 hours or 24 hours before, they fired 300 missiles or more. And I thought, okay, wow, this is going to be the, their continued attack. And they increased the level of basically their, offensive. And then shortly, within maybe 12, 24 hours, there was a ceasefire announced. So what is your take on what they did? Is it similar to what Khalid ibn al-Walid did?
I don't know. I think we need to discuss this next time. I don't know about the timing, whether they waited too long. I don't know whether when they entered the war, they also had some miscalculations because they thought that this is not going to last long. And they were counting that Israel will not wage a full-scale war on Lebanon. So that there was miscalculations there also. But it's good that some lives in Lebanon were saved because it was clearly going nowhere. So, but let's come back to it next time, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Jazakumullah khair.
جزاك الله كل خير دكتور سهيل. See you next Sunday إن شاء الله at noon. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.